Wow, nothing better than a little organ music to start the morning. Good morning, it's DJ Wonder Chrissy, and we're part of Land Cruiser Midwest. Hope you're having a good day. It's getting a little snow here today, just a little sprinkling. It is Tuesday, December 5th. So we have some updates for you today. Going to talk a little bit about Chicago, just a quick update. For some reason, the amount of media reports coming out of Chicago and the crisis has decreased quite a bit. Not sure why. Nothing's changed really, and it's changing every day. So, kind of wondering why all of a sudden there's a drop off in reports. Ever since they've gotten the migrants into the churches, supposedly they're out of most of the police stations. I got a feeling that's not the case. So let's get into a quick update about the migrant tent city that they're building at 26th and California, and it's also known as Brighton Park. Yesterday, they mysteriously stopped the building. Our governor, J.B. Pritzker, issued a stop order through the Illinois EPA as they started looking at some of the nasty chemicals that were found and started questioning the remediation that was done. I guess they took out some soil from various areas. They found 3 or 4 different types of chemicals that could be harmful to humans. Yeah, so I think some common sense is starting to prevail, but we'll see how this transpires. There's a couple of lawsuits lingering out there too, and Chicago's paying like almost $100,000 to rent this 9 acres of property, and I will say they threw up. They've got several tent shells up quickly and within a day or two. So they're once they did what they started doing what they said they were going to do, it went pretty quickly. So I don't know how the rest of the electricity and all the final build out things takes, but the actual shells, the floor and the ceiling, and their duct work or whatever that they had going on went pretty quickly. So so that's a quick update about Chicago. Now, a lot of people you talk to think, well, the border's closed, right? You hear in the mainstream media, the border's closed, the border is closed. You hear the people in Washington, D.C. say the border's closed. So what do people think? The border's closed. I beg to differ with you, and we've got some Fox reports here from Lukeville, Arizona, which I guess is close to Tucson, and this is the reality of the border, folks. Let me say that again. This is the reality of the border. So let me play this for you, and you can get a gander at what our border looks like in Arizona, and you can decide for yourself. You can use your own 2 eyes and your ears and decide if our border is closed or not.
At the trash behind you. Unbelievable.
John, Christina, we've talked to migrants from different countries. They basically been living here and waiting for days to try and get to the next step and be transported to the collections center, if you will. And just take a look behind me. Yes, you can see the trash here left behind, and what looks like basically the length of a football field, sections of lines going down the border wall. Our photojournalist Mark Johnson giving you a look at that. I spoke to Customs and Border Protection as we arrived today. Basically, once these migrants are transported and taken into custody, the next step is processing at either the Ajo or Yuma stations before heading to Tucson, and by plane or bus sent to another sector to be detained to seek asylum. Now, encounters here at the Tucson sector have gone up 140% in the fiscal year of 2024 compared to last year, and we've seen much more single adults here, many of them men, waiting in line.
Now notice as they pan through the crowd here, you're going to see a lot of South American type of faces, but I think I saw some Nigerian type of faces or African type of faces here. So these people are coming from across the world. Let me say that again. These people are coming from across the world. They've already counted 160 different countries that they've stopped people at the border. So these people are coming from over 160 different countries across the world to your nation to suck up your resources and to let you, the American taxpayer, pay for their living expenses. How does that make you feel? Comment below, guys. Comment below how that makes you feel.
Vulnerable people, being the families of women and children, took priority here, and they are been now taken away about a couple of hours ago. We saw them. And earlier I spoke with a man named Emmanuel from Nigeria who has been here for 3 days or so, telling me he traveled through 11 countries to get to this point. Take a listen.
I don't know, man. I don't know if I'll survive this night again. It's so cold and there's no food. There's no water. Like the water, you have to wait until you get this. There's like, if you're like shelter, you know, maybe tents and food, like some humanitarian government here pass some apples out, you know, it helps. Like, there's no, you don't understand, like staying out 4 days, 5 days without food, without water.
Now there you go. I guess it's good that they're not presenting the Hyatt hotels or the Marriott Bonvoy experience for these people. But on the other hand, you know, after 3 days of being with no food, people get a little edgy and things start to happen. So that's not a good experience there either. You know, as I'm a prepper, right? So in the prepper circles, you hear a lot of people say, you know, things are fine, but once people go without food for several days, then things happen and change pretty drastically. So apparently these people are stuck at the border, and it's not warm down there either at night, folks, just so you know. I mean, this is Arizona. You'd think it would be beautiful in the evening. No, it looks like they're freezing themselves, or have fires going on to keep warm. But that's, imagine that. Imagine if it's that cold on the south border, what it's like living out on the streets of Chicago, or well, New York City is a little more temperate than Chicago because they're on the coast. But I mean, like Minneapolis, you don't hear much about migrants going to Minneapolis, do you? Or Milwaukee. I spend a lot of time in Milwaukee, and haven't heard any of the people we encounter there talk about migrants. They have no idea what a migrant is yet. So, and it's probably, Milwaukee is usually 3 to 4 degrees colder than Chicago, and they get a little more snow than us too. So it's not that far away, maybe 2 hours north of Chicago, but the weather does change. Okay, so let's get back to this report from the Arizona border.
Back out here live, you've seen the trash here. This has basically become a campsite for these migrants who have been collecting firewood because it does get so cold at night. They've been sharing crackers, granola bars, and snacks, things like that. Also cheering when the line gets closer to the front so they can move on to the next step of processing. Now, Governor Katie Hobbs did speak to the press earlier today, and specifically about the Lukeville port of entry. She said that she would not be sending any state resources here, and that the federal government needed to step up and address the border crisis. John, Christina?
Justin, what is this process like? Are these mostly singles that are in line waiting for days? Because families, they kind of get pushed to the front, right?
Yes, that's pretty much what we saw. These sections were split up with families in the front, and then you had about 3 lines of single adults waiting their turn. The families took precedence, and so now for the day, they have been taken to the next location. As for the single adults here, one man told us that it's been about 200 people each day being moved out of this area, so they have hence been waiting for a few days. One man has been here since Friday. He's from Ecuador, and so finally today he got moved up and is on to the next location. It is quite a wait, and yes, the families do take priority.
So there you go. Where's all the climate people? Look at all this rubbish here. What's that doing to our environment down there? I don't think I've ever heard anyone question that in the last 6 months. I've seen several reports where they actually had National Guard guys down there with dumpsters in Texas, cleaning up all the stuff that the migrants leave behind once they cross the border. They seem to throw everything that they don't need just on the side of a trail and let it become somebody else's problem. Tons and tons of garbage, as you can see here. The other concerning part is, as Katie Hobbs is kind of in the meltdown mode. I can understand that, but that's a recipe for disaster, folks. Is to just sit there and withhold what is needed to be done at the border. That's just like creating a powder keg. And as I said before, you just wait for people to get hungry enough, and who knows what will happen next. So sad state of affairs. And if you thought that the border was closed, you're entirely wrong. It is wide open, and the people are coming in droves. As I had mentioned before, I don't have a video for you today. There was a train coming from South Mexico, filled, a freight train filled with people on top of the cars and just riding it through Mexico. Heading to the border. They were headed to Eagle Pass area, supposedly. I don't even know what the count is at this point, but I think some of the places in Texas were saying 2,000 people a day for an area or sector, whatever you want to call it. So, but I haven't seen any counts lately. I've lost track. We're at 6 or 7 million people in the last 3 years, folks, and they're starting to show up places near you. They're showing up in Chicago. They've been in New York. If you want, all I can say is Chicago is probably 3 months behind New York City. Look what's going on in New York City. They are cash strapped now. It's impacting their budget. You talk to people who have been to Manhattan, and the city is turning into California with garbage and smells that you don't want to smell in this when you're spending that kind of money for a hotel or a trip to New York City to see a play or do some Christmas shopping or just being a tourist. You don't want to encounter that, believe me. So Chicago is using the same template as New York City. So whatever the hell is happening in New York City, it's coming to Chicago, and I think we're starting to see the effects of that right now. So Get ready, folks. 2024 is going to be a good one. And consider this. As things are going now and the anger that people are feeling in the city of Chicago, we have the Democratic National Convention here next summer in Chicago. Think about that. What happened in 1968, right? Do some Google that on Google and find out what happened at the 1968 Democratic Convention in Chicago. Different circumstances, but there was a lot that happened. I'll just say that. So as 2024 enters the picture, I got a feeling that you're going to have a lot of unhappy people in Chicago. And you have them right now. We're starting to see reports in the media where some of these voters, the Democratic voters, and I've said before, Chicago's problems are a lot of their own. Chicago has voted for a Democratic mayor for 95 years straight. Let me say that again. Chicago has been under Democratic mayoral control for 95 years straight. They have never had a Republican mayor in 95 years, and they probably never will. And the people that voted for Brandon feel hoodwinked. I really think those people thought that they were going to get some extra cheese on their plate, and come to find out they're not. Brandon's not about taking care of the minorities of Chicago. Brandon is about the progressive agenda, folks. He is about the progressive agenda, which is letting people out of jail, creating chaos, and creating a mess of things. He is Lori Lightfoot on steroids. You thought Lori Lightfoot was bad. Brandon Johnson is like 5 times as bad as Lori. As bad as Lori was, Brandon is worse. Believe me. We're just starting to see the effects of Brandon's way of managing things, which is really not managing. He just goes from crisis to crisis, and that's pretty much what he does. And along the way, he's spending all your taxpayer money that he doesn't have. You're going to see that come out too. I had a video last night. It didn't play this piece, but the GOP person for the state of Illinois has gone on record to say that, you know, they're moving money around freely in Springfield, which is our capital, to plug these financial holes. The health care expense that is plaguing our state for the migrants is astronomical, and I think she said they just moved $160 million, and it didn't even plug the hole. It just was helped. It helped a little bit. So as we let these migrants in, and most of them, some of them are having babies. They got health issues. Showed you yesterday where a guy was coming across the border with one leg. Somebody's paying for that, and it's me and you. Okay, the Illinois state taxpayer, and more so, on top of it, the Chicago taxpayer. In Chicago's been living on a credit card for way too long. This is going to be the straw that breaks Chicago's back, folks. I firmly believe that. I've done some other videos on that. Chicago has sold their parking meters. They've sold the Chicago Skyway. Their revenue opportunities keep diminishing, and they can only tax people so much before they say no more. All right? So I think that's it for today. Have a good morning. It's starting to snow here in Chicago. It looks like we got a little dusting so far. It's not sticking to the roads just yet, but we're supposed to get snow all weekend. Thank goodness that the migrants are off the streets, but I really don't think that's 100% at this point. We still have lots of migrants on the streets. We still have a lot of homeless people, which Brandon doesn't care about. JB doesn't care about the homeless in the state of Illinois. That's just a flat fact, folks. So there you go. DJ Wonder Chrissy. Like, share, and subscribe. It does matter. We're starting to get lots of views. I thank you for that. We're trying to bring you guys some good information on the migrants. I just released a video this morning, so check that out. That was Myra Flores was in the Chicago area last week, and she had some things to say about Brandon Johnson, so check that out. Okay, over and out, DJ Wonder Chrissy.